the clerk call to roll? Never mind.
What?
We gotta wait.
We're holding.
Trying to pull it in there anyway.
Never had
Alex
this
is not
problem
playing
before.
today.
No.
We said we never had this problem before.
They didn't
We
have,
had back-to-back meetings on
they didn't have
Monday,
internet
so-
when we started. So.
Hands and strings at that point.
Not Kim Bush going shade. Okay, this. This laptop isn't showing. Where's the internet?
Okay, this meeting was called to order at 2:51 on April 21st. Would the clerk please call to roll?
Legislator Thompson,
Here.
Bush,
Here,
Hernandez,
Here.
Karen,
here,
Chairperson,
Here.
all present.
All right. Are there any corrections to the agenda minutes? Seeing none, the minutes are accepted. All right, let's move on to our first agenda item. Commissioner Voss.
Thank you. So I sent you, and I have in front of me, and I gave each of you a hard copy of our 2026 highway plan. This is what I would refer to as the index of our work for this year. So this is everything we're going to address. Paving, bridges, et cetera, culverts. So if you can go to page, well, it's labeled page 2, but I got an extra page in there. The budget shows how we're gonna break out the money. So it took me a minute to figure this out when I first started, so I'll walk you through what the different categories of funding are and then how those break out. So if you look at the top line, it says 2026 operating budget, then 2026 CHIPS, bond issue, federal, state aid, and others, and then the total on the far right. So as we go through this, you'll see we have all of the projects then listed down the left side by category. So our federal aid projects this year include Buckley Road, some more design work on the Loop the Lake Trail, Jamesville Toll Road Bridge, John Glenn eastbound paving, some more work on Old Liverpool, the Onondaga Boulevard project that Chris is working on. Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me. Before I even start, I brought, I'm Marty Voss. This is Chris Robber, Civil Engineer 3. He is responsible for our federal aid program, so he administrates a lot of these grants. And this is Penny Donahue, who's actually housed at management and budget, but she's our CFO, so she's with me as well because she puts all the math together and makes it math. So if you look at the categories down the left side, that shows what we're spending the money on. Top line shows where we're getting the money from. Now, if you look at the operating budget, it shows you what our cash capital is, which was $2.5 million in 2026. Our 2025 number was $6 million. The CHIPS money, you'll notice we have 6.787 million. Last year, after the budget was done and all was finished in Albany, that number was actually 11,162,786. Thank you, Penny. We don't know what those numbers will be until the state passes its budget. So those are formula-driven appropriations that are done by road mileage to every county, city, town in the state. So right now, because we don't have a state budget, the only number we can put in is what we're fairly certain has been there every year for 20 years, which is through the CHIPS program. We are anticipating that that'll be changed and adjusted. I had hoped to be able to come over with all of those numbers right away, but because of the timing of the construction season and the lack of a state budget, we can't do that yet. So I'll have to come back again in June or hopefully May committees with those actual appropriations numbers from the state, because we have to have resolutions not only to spend money, but we also have to have resolutions to accept money from the state and federal government. So it's a big part of what we do. This is not the first time there's been a late state budget, so it's not that unusual. I think out of 10 years, I think twice I've had the numbers with me when I came over. So Then the next column is the bonds that we're asking for approval on today and what those break out to. We're looking for two bonds, one to support bridge improvements, and then the second one to support highway improvements. And then in the actual work plan, you'll see, $3,560,000 of that is going to go to our local match of the federal aid projects. That's the 5%, sometimes a little more, that we use to leverage those federal and state dollars that pay for all of our work. So I mentioned that at the last meeting when I gave the overview. I'm sure some of you remember that. And then it'll show you also what we use the bond funds on, 400. And so far this year, we have a little over 36 million in work planned. Before anyone asks, the hot mix contract is currently with Seneca Stone. We have Midland Asphalt for Novachip, and the cold mix and the surface treatment are out to bid right now. So I can't tell you who that's going to be yet because it hasn't been awarded yet. So going through the work plan itself, as we move on to page 4, we bake all of the projects into the CIP, and all of the money is planned in the CIP, which is part of our budget presentation in the summer and then the fall when we get the budget adopted. Then when we actually see how things flesh out, get real cost estimates, get real ideas of what things are going to be able to go or not go because of various regulatory hurdles that we have. And I'm really understating that. There's a lot of regulatory hurdles with things like the Loop the Lake Trail that may delay a project, may slow a project down, but we still have to keep the ball rolling, keep the process moving forward. So a lot of what you're going to see in the bulk of the work plan is us keeping the train on the tracks, no pun intended, and keeping things moving so that we can get these projects funded down the road. Like I explained before too, it's a 5-year process on a good day to get something from, conception to a completed project. So if you want to go through each of these one by one, I don't think you do, Chad. That's up to you. The Fed aid projects are all listed in here. And then we'll go through those when we go through the individual resolutions for the federal aid program. Okay. But in general, there's an overview of each one in here. So with a couple of highlights being this Jamesville Toll Road Bridge, this is over in DeWitt. Construction wouldn't be till 2030, but we're still trying to keep the process moving now. Old Liverpool 2R paving. This is from Electronics Parkway, I believe, to the village, and includes some sidewalks and some other nice stuff that the town of Salina has talked to us about. Teal Ave, Ped and Safety. Is this the CMAC?
Yes.
Yep. So we got a special state grant for this project. We're trying to get this one moving. We had a hell of a time getting a survey done over there. Those who are familiar with Teal Ave know it. So that's a big one. Every legislator who's represented Salina has asked or talked to me about that one. So we're happy to be moving that along. Right now, in an ideal world, we'd be doing construction on this next year. And then some additional federal aid paving work. So on the bigger roads, the higher volume, federally aid eligible roads, that's 4,000 cars a day or more, we can use federal aid to do not only repaving, but also drainage and other structures that we're working on. So some of those are listed here. Onondaga Boulevard, and so our share of that is over by West Hill, all the way up to Velasco, from Fay to Velasco. The city is doing a similar project from Velasco east on Onondaga Boulevard. So we're trying to coordinate with them and make sure that we're not on top of each other, and that's going pretty well. The 5 traffic signals that need to get upgraded. So that's Casson Road at the mall, East Malloy and Kinney, West Tennessee and Whedon, Fay and Grand, and then Casson at Howlett Hill. Cold mix. So cold mix is it's not really cold, it's really just lukewarm, but that's the product that we use on the lower volume roads out in the more rural parts of the county. So you'll see a lot of that in Lafayette, Spafford, Atisco, Tully, that type of area. We use hot mix in the more congested urban and suburban areas. A few bridges. Broadfield Road, that's a design. Airport Bridge, we've got to take a look at that. And Valley Drive, other bridges that we have. And then we've got some in here for stream cleaning, maintenance, scouring of bridges, things like that, just to keep things moving in the right direction and well maintained. Hot mix, that's the big paving contract. The list of roads that are going to be paved, hot and cold, are attached in here. And then we also we have guide rail that we have to replace in various places. Guide rail is applied when the risk of a vehicle traveling past the edge of the pavement is greater, and the likelihood of a fatality is greater than just damage to a vehicle. So we don't use them to protect property, we use them to protect drivers and protect people, to guide them back onto the road so that they don't die when they go over a cliff. Bituminous surface treatment refers to, that's the pavement preservation program, where we try to resurface with an asphalt treatment that is a lot thinner and a lot easier to put down, to try to keep the decent roads good longer, so we don't have to do a wholesale repavement of everything. And then obviously we have to have money in our budget for testing and other things that go along with maintaining our system. And then some storm sewer, catch basins, culverts, really not that exciting, but stuff that has to happen. Some of those are outlined in there. Facilities repair refers to our own building and facilities. We have a couple of capital projects that my other deputy commissioner, Adam George, is working on to finish up the sewers at Marcellus, the doors at Marcellus. We've got some drainage work at Jamesville and an air handling unit at North area to get the dust and the stench out of the garage there, because it's getting kind of gross. Get a lot of dust on the vehicles back there. And then we get into the actual paving list. So you can see here, this is our planned paving for the year. Once these have gone through committees, or once the bonds have gone through committees that accompany this, we will release these lists to the contractors, and then we work with them on getting a schedule together. It's going to take a little ballet this year with the schedule, because we're competing for materials and hauling with the state and with the project in Clay. So we try to get everything that's in here done the year we say we're going to do it, but there's always some carryover that gets moved into the next year. For example, Jamesville Road, we're going to be doing that the first week of May. That was a carryover from last year because we just ran out of time. When the asphalt plants close, you can't work anymore. So the state's very good about letting us carry that money over and finish the projects the following year. So if you want to look at the cold mix, that's the first page, and then there's a map to go along with that. Hot mix is the second page. There's a map to go along with that. And it shows you which roads, from where to where, and what the treatment is that we're going to put down. And then the bituminous is, that goes on top of the cold mix as well, everywhere we do it. So you'll see some duplication between cold mix and bituminous, just sort of a final treatment to get it the way people expect. So there's a lot of that. So that's the work plan in the context of the agenda for today. So the agenda for today, we have the two bond resolutions. The first bond is the bridge bond, which supports our bridge program. And again, that 1.49 million leverages millions more for bridge work. And the bond resolutions are done by management and budget with bond counsel.
Any discussion on item A? Can I get a motion? Thank you, Majority Leader. Can I get a second?
Second.
Jeremiah? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? So moved.
Okay, and then
Item B.
item 1B is the 7.110 million for the highway program.
Any discussion on the item? Can I get a motion?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So moved.
Oh, boy.
Item C.
Item C, and Chris, you're gonna help me with this one. So for the 7th North Street project, is it 7th North or Buckley? 7th North. All right, so we have to do some right-of-way acquisition. What that means is we're trying to do, this is from electronics to Buckley, right?
Actually to the city line, which is the
All right,
road.
so the next intersection, which is over the bridge and through the woods. Past the gas station down there.
Yeah,
Past
it's
Pilot,
near
yeah.
the pilot, like
Yeah.
the city line's right there.
All right, so this is a big one. So as we're doing that, the feedback we've gotten through all the public hearings, and we public hearing these things to death, both online and when we can in person, there's a real interest in sidewalks and bike lanes and things like that in that corridor. So we're gonna try to adapt to that. As part of that process, though, we have to be able to go in and negotiate for these little slivers of land to extend the highway boundary so that we can do the project. Because the plan is gonna be to narrow that again and reduce the lane so that we can accommodate the bike lane and the sidewalks. But in order to do that, we've got to take little slivers of right-of-way. We're not taking their property, we're taking the right-of-way, and we're gonna negotiate and compensate them for that. But we still have to have legislative approval and be allowed to use our budget to go in and do that negotiation. So these are a listing of all of those properties that have been identified by the engineers that will need to be discussed. We don't do eminent domain. We don't have an eminent domain authority, so I figured I'd answer that before it was even asked. We go in and negotiate. That's the best we can do. Well, it's a double-edged sword, though, because then when we do need to get something, it's very complicated to get a piece of property when they don't want to give it to you.
How'd you arrive at this number?
These numbers are put together by the engineering consultant who's responsible for the overall project, and we're using the standard value for these little slivers of, you wouldn't even notice.
Yeah.
If you went out and saw what we were, and again, right away doesn't mean that we're taking the land. Right away means that we're expanding the highway boundary so that we can accommodate the project. The property owner still owns the property. We just have a legal instrument to be able to do work in close proximity and in some cases in that area. So we're not taking anyone's land, we're just improving the public infrastructure and maintaining a legal right to be there. Makes
You said
sense?
in that negotiation, the homeowners are compensated in some way?
Yeah, these are businesses, so it's,
Businesses.
yeah, most of them are, well, one of them is a homeowner. BOCES is there. This project's interesting too. You know where, are you Saline? So BOCES has that sort of weird driveway that's actually kind of, yeah, it's become like basically a public road.
Yeah.
And it's been built up to be a public road, so we've been talking with them about maybe that should be a town of Salina road or maybe a county road, because it needs to be maintained. And we're thinking that area has grown anyway. There's some businesses back there now off that road.
Mhm.
So that may be part of this.
So Marty, will the expansion be on both sides of the roadway? Because it is residential on like
On the south side.
yeah, on
Yeah.
the south.
These are all north. aren't they?
The takings that we're looking at are on both sides of the road, just slivers, not the whole way.
Yeah,
just
like maybe a foot
piece
by
of
the
it.
10 or 50 foot of
Yeah,
road
For
frontage.
instance, we have to put a traffic signal pole in at
Yeah.
one of the corners. We just need
Right.
a triangular piece for that.
Okay.
We need other small slivers for sections of sidewalk where they don't currently exist. Things like that. They're fairly minor.
No, my office is there and it's needed. There are always people walking the shoulder and I can't believe nobody gets clipped. So it's a good project.
Yeah, I mean, the hard part with sidewalks, Rich, is under state law, the county doesn't own them.
Right.
But under federal law, we are required to build them. So once we build them, the municipality is required to maintain them. Town of Salina historically has not wanted to do that in the winter. Electronics Park is a good example that we did that project out there, and sometimes they're plowed, sometimes they're not. There are certain municipalities that do a great job of clearing sidewalks, like, I'll be a homer here, but the town of Camillus does a pretty good job down in Fairmount of clearing the sidewalks in front of the commercial quarter, because they have people that live in those neighborhoods that want to be able to walk to the grocery store on a nice day. So there are, some municipalities do better with it than others. Camillus doesn't, North Syracuse does a great job. They have all the equipment, they go out and hammer them. So that's what this is. This resolution allows us to advance that project, do the right of way, and get the process moving forward so we can try to advance this for construction in what year, Chris?
This one's in 2031.
So this one's a bit off, but we're still, and then all of the maps are included here. This is really probably TMI, but, you know, again, we'll go through this process with our law department and the property owners and our engineering consultant, and it's a boring process, but usually what happens is when people find out why we're asking and that we're going to improve the road, the drainage, and put sidewalks in and other accommodations, like the bike lanes are a big hot thing these days. They're usually pretty happy when they hear that that's what's happening.
Any discussion on item C? Can I get a motion?
A motion to move it.
Hernandez, can I get a second? McCarron. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item D.
All right, that was a big one. All right, this is the Buckley Road paving project. So this is a straight pay in the first instance resolution. So pay in the first instance is the resolutions that we have to do showing that we have legislative authorization to front the money for one of our federal aid projects, which will then be reimbursed by the federal government through the state of New York. So this one is for Buckley Road. From Hopkins and Taft in Clay, replace the drainage, widen the roadway, add turn lanes, remove the concrete medians, because those are unhelpful, improve the traffic signals and new signage, and sidewalks between Bailey Road and Taft Road, which is up near the medical center and the New Brooklyn Pickle, and soon to be burned area across the street. So very, very busy growing part of the town of Clay.
All right, any discussions with item D?
No. And this one supports the Hopkins Park upgrades too, right?
Sure, yeah, it's in that area, yeah. You know, Hopkins Park's gonna draw a lot of visitors. They're gonna wanna get a sandwich,
Mhm.
you know, why not? Sure.
Can I get a motion?
A motion.
Hernandez, second.
I'll second.
Thompson. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item E.
So this is Onondaga Boulevard. This is a big deal. The other legislator, Ryan, used to complain about this every now and then. We can get us some state money. The resolution allows us to advance the $8,075,000 for construction for this project, which is anticipated to start construction in 2027. This is a two-course pavement treatment between Fay Road and Velasco Road. So basically from the beginning of Onondaga to the city line, looking at some safety improvements around the high school, around West Hill, and the Western Lights commercial area, sidewalk on both sides in the commercial area, and a multi-use paved trail from Wegmans to Fay Road, which is very exciting for the people who live down there. Drainage, roadside obstacle, guide rail signage, and striping improvements, and new traffic signals in front of Wegmans at Velasco. And at Velasco, excuse me.
How far up are the sidewalks going?
Right through the funeral home.
Okay.
We're gonna bulldoze and seize the funeral home and put the sidewalks.
You know,
Eminent domain just for that.
No, they'll be the multi-use trail.
The sidewalks will essentially go to Wegmans, and then the multi-use trail will pick up on the north side and go westerly past West Hill High School almost all the way to Fay Road.
Okay.
We have to stop it a little short just because we have right-of-way issues there, but
you just gotta.
almost made it.
So it's actually opposite
On the
of,
other side.
yeah, of the Winkworth area.
Any discussion? Can I get a motion?
Anybody want to help out? Or I'm motion. I'm motion
Can I
today.
get a second?
Ken, you want to?
Bush, thank you.
Can you want motion?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
All right, so the next one is for the final phase of Loop the Lake. This is for the right-of-way acquisition phase with CSX. So this is going to be a challenge. But we still need to have the resolution so we can begin the process with CSX. Historically, and I don't want to get into too much inside baseball here, but historically, when we've needed to get right away from a railroad, the state DOT has had a real estate division that would do that for us. They got burned about 10 years ago. They took some land down in Rockland County or somewhere down near the city, and they valued it at 100,000. Court came back and decided that it was worth what, 10 million. So that was a bit of what we call in the business an EFU. So they haven't been as willing to do that for us anymore. They did it for the last phase of the trail. They're not able to do it this time. I've tried till I'm blue in the face, and the state is not willing to do the right-of-way process for us. So we are going to have to undertake that on our own through a consultant, which is fine. We can do that, but it's not going to be fast. So we need to get this resolution adopted so we can start the ball rolling on that. It's going to be a little different trying to get what we need from the railroad without having, you know, the leverage of the state of New York behind us. But we're still going to pursue it because the last segment of Loop the Lake will be from Murphy's Island over the marsh and over Lake Creek and onto where the cattails are just before the 81 on-ramps, and then all along Onondaga Lake Parkway, under the railroad bridge, believe it or not. We've figured out a way to do that, and then all the way to the butterfly garden where it'll terminate. So this is, you know, this is kind of it's a big deal to Chris and I because we want to get this done. We want to finish this thing. We want to finish this connection. We are committed to doing that. It's been very difficult to get it as far as we have. But when we do one of these segments, I've never seen a project that is more universally not only accepted but appreciated like these trails are, especially around Onondaga Lake. People love them. And it cuts across all socioeconomic everything. Doesn't matter who you are. If you want to get outside and get fresh air, people love these things. And people use them for the amphitheater. They use them to walk around Liverpool. You know, ideally someday down the road, there would be, not for me, obviously, but maybe for Chris, road races and, you know, bike races and things like that. So this little resolution today that we're asking for allows us to begin the process of negotiating with CSX for that right away.
Discussion.
This one I will move because we all are ready for this loop trail
All right, Hernandez.
to be done.
Can I get
Yes.
can I get a
And
second?
a lot of state
I will definitely
legislators
second
are
this. I want
Thompson,
definitely.
second. All in
Yes.
favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
All right, thank you. All right. G. This is the design, right, pay in the first instance for Old Liverpool. So this is, we just did the Old Liverpool from the city down there where that, the octopus is for the 81, all the way up to, where do we stop? Electronics Park. So if you've been through there, they really did a nice job. It came out well. This would be the next phase of that from electronics almost to the village. And the former supervisor was adamant about sidewalks. I think they're still included in the project. And this resolution allows us to advance this and keep the design process going. Construction wouldn't be for a couple of years, but like I said before, we have to get these things lined up and in the queue with design that can be funded so we can go and look for the construction money later.
Discussion. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Thompson, second.
Second.
Hernandez, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? So moved.
Item H is a bridge project that we've identified that we need to do. This is the Jamesville Toll Road Bridge, which is over near Ruston's. Dave Knapp's not here. Dave Knapp's not at work, man.
Should we vote it down?
No, I'm just surprised. Concrete deck approaches, abutments, and pedestals need to be removed and replaced. Steel girder ends need to be repaired and painted. Substructure and wing wall concrete repairs. We're looking to do this in 2030. This is for design and any right-of-way incidentals that come up.
Discussion. Can I get a motion?
I'll move it.
McCarron, second. Hernandez, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
All right. These last two. The item 1I. How do I explain this succinctly? So we have an agreement with the state of New York where they piece off several hundred miles of roads to us to plow, and then they pay us for it. We do the same with the towns and villages. We piece off a number of ours and pay them to do them. It's the most efficient way to keep the blades on the road, make sure, because the network is not set up to be easy for plowing. It's set up to be easy for travel. So what this allows us to do, having these agreements between the layers of government, is we go plow, for example, Route 20 in the southern part of the county, Route 31 in the northern part of the county, Route 11 on, which bisects the county. And then we have the towns and villages pick up some of our smaller, non-major, more arterial roads. It also helps us maintain a very homogeneous fleet. We have dump trucks that are set up for wider roads that need larger equipment on them. The towns and villages have smaller equipment that they can use on some of these neighborhood streets, so they're not going to demolish mailboxes and everything else. Last year, we made some adjustments when we changed our salary scale, and our contract with the state allows for us to get directly reimbursed on a cost basis. So Penny has to spend a lot of time checking and tracking what our actual cost basis is, and then the state will pay us for that. But we have to have, again, a resolution from the state or from the county legislature to the state of New York comptroller saying that we're eligible and able to accept those monies as reimbursement for the cost that we've already incurred. Now, you'll see, well, so that's what this one is for. And then the next one is the other piece of that, which is with the towns and villages.
Any discussion? Can I get a motion? Bush, can I get a second?
Second.
Thompson, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
This was 26. This is 24, 25.
Oh, this is going back and fixing the old one?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
This is,
All right,
the
so this is
second one
because,
came out,
this
yeah.
is because
That's
they
the
didn't
severity.
catch it and we
It's the
caught it.
severity
Okay,
index.
severity index for the
For
current
New
winter,
York
yeah, all right.
for
So the
24,
state
25.
can do what we call a severity index when we have an actual winter like we had this year with 146 inches of snow. So when that number goes over, a standard winter is a 1. If we get enough snow that it goes over a 1.5, then they'll give us what's called the severity payment. So that's what this is. It allows us to reimburse for additional money because at the end of the day, the state holds us to the contract, which says we have to be out 24/7 while it's snowing. We're pretty good about adhering to that. We run 24/7 all winter. We don't necessarily have that kind of service from the towns that we pay, but we have to maintain that level of service to be in compliance with the state contract. And if they don't think that we're out often enough, they let me know immediately. So this is to compensate us for those additional expenses related to overtime.
And that was I.
That is
Jay,
J.
That was
Jay.
This is,
Jay.
yeah, this is J.
I is for 25,
I was the
26.
other one.
Yeah.
It's the current
It's
season we are just
Current
on.
season we just finished, yeah.
Got it. All
So
right.
this is going back and fixing 24,
This is
25.
24, yeah, J is 24, 25, the severity index that New York State came up with.
Perfect. Discussion. Can I get a motion?
I love the state giving us money.
Bush, can I get a second?
Second.
Thompson, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Commissioner, I'd like to thank you, Penny and Chris. Great presentation today.
So, Nicole, do I have to do the whole presentation again at Ways and Means, or are we?
I will check in with the chair, but I do not believe so. We can direct them to watch this presentation but please plan to be available for any additional
Absolutely, of course,
questions.
Yeah.
It was good. You could, I mean, it was I want to see it again.
Maybe we can get a hologram of you.
I'm sorry?
Maybe we can get a hologram of you.
Yeah. We don't want that.
2 more of these? I don't know.
Anything else?
No, can you
thank you, sir.
advocate Facility Road and Thompson Road to have that same project as Till Ave? Those roads are busy as well. A lot of
That,
people
yeah,
walk up and
I mean,
down.
and the TLF, Chris and I were talking about before we came here. I mean, we do these public hearings and we get a lot of great ideas. The problem is everything costs money and, you know, the grant we got is only for a certain amount. And we want to maximize and do as much improvement as we can to make things better for everyone. We would love to be able to, you know, underground all the utilities, put everything, make everything brand new again, but that's millions of dollars. So we're trying to do the most we can with the dollars we have available to improve as many of these corridors as we can. And that TLF corridor is really long overdue. And the other part of that that's nice is the city is doing a project from, so the town city line is right near the McDonald's at Shop City. It's not actually at the intersection, it's a little bit north of that. And the city's gonna be doing a similar project going south down past like where Henniger is and towards the highway. So, you know, again, when we coordinate with the city, we can get a really nice outcome for everyone where you create a new corridor so people can walk. Because people walk through Lincourt all the time anyway. We see them. It's a pretty good bakery over there.
Did you say Thompson Road though?
Yes.
Thompson Road is mostly owned by the state.
Yeah,
Yes, it is.
Okay.
I was being.
Okay, I was gonna say, out of our jurisdiction.
Well, they just repaved it. We did that.
Can't say too much.
We did that nice bridge over on Exeter Street a few years ago. That was ours. Pretty good?
Yeah, thanks, man.
Thank you so
Appreciate
much.
it.
See you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner?
How you doing, Brian?
Nice to see you. I got the cue. You didn't even have to call me up.
Perfect. Appreciate it.
Tried to give you a park with plugs.
Yeah.
They didn't get it.
I probably don't need this.
If you push the button, it should go on.
It's dead.
Nope.
I project. You guys can hear me.
Well, it's for the viewers at home too.
Oh,
This is
okay.
an extra one. This one's working.
All right, there we go. Good afternoon, everyone.
Afternoon, Commissioner.
Nice to see y'all. Today, we are here to request that the 2026 county budget be amended for us to accept a grant from New York State. Onondaga County was awarded $50,000 from New York State Swims. That's a grant from New York State to reimburse municipalities through certain counties and large cities to incentivize lifeguard recruitment, retention, and training, and to improve swimming opportunities throughout the state. Eligible counties were charged with working with municipalities within their county. Onondaga County Parks has worked with and will establish IMAs with 7 municipalities, including the town of Skaneateles, the town of Camillus, the town of Manlius, the town of Salve and Gaddis, the village of Jordan, the town of Salina, and the town of Van Buren. Each municipality will be reimbursed $4,000 for documented raises, retention bonuses, training, and/or training materials and equipment that they purchased from May of '24 through September of '25. The remaining $22,000 will go to reimburse Onondaga County for training equipment, and lifeguard raises. So we ask that you approve and amend the 2026 budget for us to receive this grant.
Thorough, any discussion? Can I get a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Karen, Bush, second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thanks, everyone.
All right.
Wait.
All right, all right.
Got the hot seat, the mic's on for you, right? This one's working.
No.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you. I'm pleased to present a resolution to name the pavilion at the Empower Lakeview Credit Union Amphitheater in honor of Joanne Mahoney. Joni Mahoney, former county executive. She was really the driving force behind that amphitheater being built. We are into our 10th full season this year. We felt this was a fitting time to acknowledge that. I think we all remember there was a little trepidation when the amphitheater was being built, but it's proven itself to be a tremendous success over the last 10 years, and we would like to place her name on the pavilion.
Any discussion?
Why, do you have another name?
Good job, Brian.
Then nobody will go.
I think it's a great idea. This was a very controversial project at the time. The county went ahead and invested in it. And I'm glad to see that this, what was a controversial project, showing to be a great asset to the community and a profit-making venture. So I hope that all of our county projects end up like this.
All right, I echo those sentiments. I think Joni did a lot of great things for this county, and I'm glad to be a part of this. Can I get a motion?
I am honored to motion.
Majority Leader, second McCarron, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Does the agreement, when does it run out with the Oneidas for that? Are they paying us so much a year?
Yeah, we have forgive me, there's an exclusivity agreement with the Oneidas that was put in place by New York State a number of years ago. It precludes certain counties from having casinos within their counties. But what it does do is it does take some of the proceeds from the other casinos and divert those to those counties. I don't know about an expiration date on that agreement. I believe it's in perpetuity,
Oh, really?
but
I thought
I'm
it was
not.
10 years, or at 15.
I'm not aware of an expiration date, but I can check on that for you.
I shouldn't have mentioned it. I shouldn't have mentioned it.
This time we have Friends of the Rosamond Gifford Zoo. We have Andrew Brazil and Megan Thomas, who will be presenting.
Hi,
Hello.
Well,
how's everybody doing today?
Wow.
There's one of those other mics.
pick a mic. One of them.
This one? Hello?
Is that one not working now?
Might have been turned off.
Hello?
There.
There you go.
That one should.
Oh, yeah, let's do that. Thanks. How's that?
All right, there's some supporting documents. Andrew, if you just want to give us a overview of Friends of the Zoo.
Sure. So I have a statement. I'll just read that and then we'll go from there. Good afternoon, members of the legislature. My name is Andrew Brazil. I'm the interim executive director of the Friends of the Rosamond Gifford Zoo. Since 1970, our 501c3 nonprofit organization has served as a singular purpose to act as a dedicated partner to Onondaga County in making the zoo a world-class destination for conservation and education. We're not merely a vendor or a fundraising arm, we're an operational partner that allows this county facility to function at a level of excellence that would otherwise be impossible through municipal resources alone. While the county owns the facility and employs the top-tier animal staff, the Friends manage the public-facing operations of the zoo 363 days of the year, closing only for Christmas and New Year's Day. Our work is integrated into every corner of the zoo through a complex ecosystem of services. Retail and guest services, the Friends operate the Curious Cub gift shop, which in 2025 exceeded $1 million in gross revenue. These proceeds go right back into the zoo to fund internal signage, marketing, and general zoo support. The Friends award-winning food and beverage team manages all on-site concessions and catering services. This ensures that every dollar spent on the meal or event hosted at the zoo is reinvested into the facility rather than being diverted to an outside for-profit corporation. The Friends award-winning education team manages the educational programming that serves thousands of local students annually. This is made possible by an endowment by the Rosamond Gifford Foundation. Awarded in 1999, this restricted endowment totaling $2 million directly funds the educational programming required by AZA accreditation standards. The Friends award-winning marketing department manages the entire marketing, PR, and social media presence for the zoo, a professional service valued conservatively at over $300,000 annually, provided at zero cost to county taxpayers. Philanthropy and events. We serve as the primary engine for private and corporate philanthropy. We secure critical funding through individual donors and host signature community events such as Brew at the Zoo, Zoo Boo, and the Fall Conservation Bash that generate revenue necessary for the zoo's continuous improvement. Membership and volunteers. We serve and engage a loyal base of nearly 10,000 member households. Furthermore, the Friends manage a dedicated roster of volunteers who provide thousands of hours of service annually, assisting with guest education and special events, a massive in-kind labor force that the county does not have to fund. Our volunteers, our sponsors, and our donors are the lifeblood of our organization. As stewards of the community's generosity, the public trust is our most valuable asset. When a citizen buys a membership, sponsors an event, or makes a donation, they are entrusting us with the intent that their money goes directly to the animal welfare and zoo programs. It is paramount that we protect that intent, ensuring that these resources are used for the mission our donors believe in and not diverted to outside projects. The relationship between the county and Friends is not just a preference, it's a requirement for excellence. To maintain our accreditation from the Association of Zoos and Aquariums, which has been held continuously since 1987, there must be a healthy, stable, and unified relationship between the facility and the support organization. AZA standards mandate that the Friends must support the zoo through a formal agreement that ensures operational stability, and any disruption to this partnership or ambiguity in the roles create a risk of direct risk to the national accreditation that place the zoo among the best in the world. We're here today because we believe in this partnership. Our goal is to bring light to the challenges we've recently faced and to facilitate a mutually beneficial resolution with the county. We seek a stable, long-term memorandum of understanding and a retail agreement that allows us to be the best possible partners to Onondaga County and the animal care team that we work with every day. We want our resources and our energy to be focused entirely on the growth of the zoo and the care of its animals.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Megan, could you bring us up to speed?
Absolutely, I can do that. Thank you, Andrew, so much. That was really informative. Thank you to members of the legislature for having us today. Thank you to members of the Friends Board who are here today and members of the zoo, past and present. We are here today to talk about some challenges we have been facing. We are facing challenges in running an effective partnership between the zoo and the Friends. To be clear, our goal is a partnership that is effective, wherein the Friends can support the zoo to run and to thrive. Unfortunately, we have not had such a partnership for some time. The county is seeking money from the Friends to support its sorely underfunded aquarium. They are doing so in a way that is lacking in integrity and threatening the very existence of the Friends. On or about April 28th, 2025, the Friends were approached by the county with a request. Would the Friends donate $1 million to the aquarium project? We were pretty surprised by this substantial request. The funds from donors and our Gifford Foundation endowment were not allocated for the aquarium, but for the zoo. Many of those donations were tied to specific projects. Nonetheless, being team players, the Friends staff brought this request to the board. Naturally, the board had grave concerns. They were concerned that this was not in line with our mission and that $1 million is a large percentage of our funds. Specifically, last year, our net assets were about $7.5 million. $1 million would constitute about 13% of our net assets. What occurred next were multiple conversations among board members to try to decide how to address this issue. Meanwhile, the county continued to follow up on the $1 million donation and put pressure on the Friends. The board decided to ask the Gifford Foundation about whether we could give these funds away. Can we even do this? Thinking the county could not continue to make such aggressive demands if they knew that we couldn't even give these funds away. The Gifford Foundation did not support our giving these funds away to the aquarium. When the Friends did not respond to the county's request for the funds, and the county started to suspect the Friends would not consider giving the money, that's when the county started to put immense pressure on the Friends. What followed was a campaign, and is a campaign, of retaliation and bullying. First, the tone of meetings changed. They became more hostile in nature. The county became increasingly aggressive, getting angry at the Friends for minor issues. For example, the Friends had applied for a grant to help with a community reinvestment program, providing employment opportunities for youth living below the poverty line. When the grant was awarded, unbeknownst to the Friends and at no heeding of their own, the media picked this story up. The county became angry with the Friends, saying this was embarrassing to them. This is a change from how things operated before. Secondly, and very importantly, there was a memorandum of understanding that had already been negotiated among the parties and was signed by our team in August of 2025. Generally, in the past, any edits to the MOU were minimal in nature. In July of 2025, there was an email from Brian Kelly that stated, The MOU has been negotiated. We're ready to move on. We're ready for you to sign it. Once you sign it, if you could give it back to the county exec, he will sign it in return. I'm going to read a copy of this email. Again, from Brian Kelly, dated July 7th, 2025. Hi, Carrie. Attached is the final MOU agreement between the Friends of the Rosamond Gifford Zoo and Onondaga County. This version reflects the latest edits we discussed at our meeting with Sydney and Terry. This is ready for the Friends' signature. This can be signed and sent back electronically, or you can give the hard copy back to Tina. Then we will send it to the executive director for his signature. Excuse me, the county executive for his signature. I appreciate everyone's hard work and patience on this. I believe that this is a very solid working agreement that help guide us into the future. Thanks again, everyone. The terms of this MOU in the summer of 2025 were favorable to both sides. It was not vastly different from what we had signed in the past, and Carrie signed it. The membership dues paid to the county in this version were 20%. Again, consistent with what we had in the past. In the Syracuse.com article published today, Ryan McMahon is quoted stating, these numbers needed to be increased, and that it was unrelated to the aquarium ask. In fact, he called that nonsense. The county sat on the MOU for a significant amount of time and refused to sign it. Then, in October of 2025, the county sought some aggressive changes that had never been asked for before, including 40% of the membership dues payable to the county. This doubled the monies that were being paid to the county before. Attempting to change the way that the Gifford Endowment operated. Previously, the interest from the funds were to support education. Now the interest was to be used for programs and activities that had to be approved by the director of the zoo, not the Friends, and under the supervision of the commissioner of the parks, effectively taking away the Friends' control of these funds. The MOU was also being updated, or sought to be updated, to now be changed annually as opposed to every 5 years. So now the term of the agreement was once per year. This put pressure and anxiety on the Friends because now the county could change the MOU each year, threatening their financial stability, which is exactly what happened here. Then the county started talking about something that has never been discussed before, going out to RFP for the gift shop. I'm going to pause here for a moment and talk about why sending the gift shop out to an RFP doesn't make any sense logically or practically. Brian McMahon said it is, quote, best practice in the article today on Syracuse.com. However, that is not the case under this specific set of circumstances. In fact, it is nearly universal practice for public entities like public zoos with nonprofits who are partners and with Friends, I will back up. In fact, it is nearly universal practice for public entities like public zoos with nonprofit partners, there we go, like the Friends, to manage concessions or gift shops. And when they do so, to do so without going to RFP. There's a good reason why. Importantly, the Friends gave a percentage of the gift shop back to the county, right? So maybe the percentage was 30%, right? We would go to the county. But then we also reinvest the remaining portion back into the zoo. No private entity could ever do such a thing. Even if a private entity were to give the county back more than we were giving, the remaining funds wouldn't be reinvested in the zoo. So that's why it's so important that the RFP stay with the Friends and why it makes no sense to send that out for RFP. Moreover, General Municipal Law, Section 103, generally requires competitive bidding, but there are exceptions. This does not apply to concession agreements. For concession agreements, public officials have a duty to secure fair and reasonable terms for such agreements. The Friends is an independent 501c3, and this arrangement is already subject to an agreement, the MOU. There can be no logic to sending the gift shop out to RFP other than to put pressure on the Friends to give this $1 million or to retaliate against them for failing to do so. Moreover, and importantly, taking away the gift shop would be incredibly detrimental to the Friends. It has consistently represented between 38 and 46% of our net revenue. This would cripple the Friends financially to remove this money. It would be a significant, if not an unsustainable impact. The board was highly suspicious that there was a link between the failure to give the $1 million and the new hostility the Friends were experiencing. This suspicion was confirmed at an October 28th, 2025 board meeting. At this meeting, the county representative, namely Brian Kelly, was asked directly if the Friends were to give the $1 million to the aquarium, would the RFP and the MOU still be an issue? He stated that they would become, quote, negotiable. Now, there are many people in this room who heard this statement, and if you indeed heard this statement at the October 28th, 2025 meeting, I would ask that you raise your hand. Thank you. The county was laser focused on removing all barriers to access for the $1 million, as well as for other funds from the Friends. The result has been an extremely toxic environment where the county bullies the Friends consistently. After Carrie Large, our executive director, moved on to a new role, the Friends took over her office and the zoo took over her office and locked the Friends out. At this stage, we can't hire a new executive director. Given the state of the RFP and the MOU, money is being held up in such a way that we can't justify it economically. Secondly, there's no space for an executive director at the zoo at this time, given that the office has been taken over. At this time, we are asking for a couple of things, and we're asking for the legislature's help. Number one, we need to be stabilized financially. We want the RFP to the gift shop to be awarded to the Friends, and an agreement that this will not be sent back out to RFP, because it doesn't make any sense. Number two, the MOU that Carrie Large signed in August 2025 needs to be countersigned by the county, period. Finally, we are seeking an end to this campaign of bullying and retaliation and unprofessionalism that truly hurts the zoo. We are looking for increased accountability from the legislature on these matters and a continued partnership. We want to restore that partnership with the zoo in such a way where there is mutual respect and we can both do our jobs in the way that we need to. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Questions from legislators?
Yeah, I have some questions. So you just a couple things I want to make sure that I'm clear on. So you talked about the memorandum of understanding that went to renegotiate annually, and it was supposed to be, when was the last time the MOU was renegotiated off?
So it was renegotiated in 2025. We had come to an agreement and
Fully signed, fully executed. When's the last time we had a fully executed revision?
I don't have that in front of me, but it was a couple of years before. 22. There you go.
Okay. And do we know what the changes were between the previous one and 22 versus what the changes are?
Nothing substantial like this. Yeah, like I said, minor edits, minor revisions. It was always a collaborative process, and it was never something that would cripple us in such a way as this one did.
Okay, and then relative to the relationship between the zoo and the aquarium, I might be misremembering this. If I am, please forgive me. Didn't the zoo put in a request to run the aquarium? Wasn't the aquarium idea partly because of the zoo's pushing back in the day?
So I'd really like to clear up this statement about the zoo, about the Friends being the precipice for the aquarium. This makes no sense, and this is not the case. So I just want to clear that up. On the record today, the Friends never asked, this was not the Friends' idea to have the aquarium. However, once it was happening, yes, of course, we're a partner. We want to be a partner. We want to help out. So if you want to speak to that issue, we can certainly address that as well.
You know, I wasn't a part of all these conversations, but conversations took place where the Friends offered, you know, are you going to need a Friends organization at the aquarium? Can we carry our services that we're providing at the zoo over to the aquarium? We've had great success here. How can we help you there? So it was never really like, we weren't driving the bus, right? We were offering support.
Did the Friends of the Zoo officially put in to compete to run the aquarium against, what's the name of the company?
Oceanarium, Zoo Oceanarium.
Sorry.
I believe there was a proposal that was on the table at some point.
I'm just trying to remember, to get the history of the relationship, you know, so. Because you're alleging bad blood from the county, you know, it looks like the zoo had a vested interest in the aquarium early on. I'm not saying you pushed it, but had a vested interest in being partners with it early on, based on the relationship of asking to run it.
So that is indicative of how things went before, right?
Yeah.
If there was an opportunity for partnership, totally open to it. The ask from the county wasn't the problem, right? I mean, it's kind of a big ask, but that wasn't the problem. The problem is what happened after. Similarly to how we entered into the RFP for the aquarium, essentially, once that was done, we moved on. There was no problem.
Thank you, Legislator McCarron. Other questions?
I found one more, and again, this might be a question for the county. When the amphitheater was done and the concessions were done, did that go out to open bids around concessions at the amphitheater, an RFP for that? Do we currently have an open RFP for concessions at the zoo right now? Is that like an open bid, right? Is it legal to even discuss it? Okay, so I didn't know if like I should be commenting on this.
Bob?
Okay.
You cannot discuss an open RFP. You can't discuss the details, but you can discuss the process.
Okay, so I can ask.
The
questions.
process itself, but none of the details.
I don't want to put the county in a pickle. Sometimes my big mouth does that, so.
Can I just answer the?
Yeah, please,
the-
absolutely.
So just to be clear about why the bid for the amphitheater would have gone out for RFP for any concessions, it's because they don't have a 501c3 partner. It's a categorically different issue.
Okay.
So under General Municipal Law 103, that makes sense. In our situation, under
One of the
General Municipal
exceptions
Law,
that you referred
it's the
to.
exception. You got it,
I was
exactly.
listening.
Perfect, good. Glad we're on the same page.
Well, I was listening. I'm not saying I agree with it.
That's okay.
I think open competition to negotiate the best deal for the county is in the best interest of the county. When you look at monies invested, I know we spent a lot of money bonding for the zoo recently. Not that, listen, I'm a member of the zoo, you know, so my kids grew up going to the zoo probably 3 times a month. But, you know, I look at what we've reinvested and I haven't seen your budget. I don't know what it looks like. I don't know what the staffing looks like. I don't know enough about it. I'm getting old, so I can't read any of that, you know, it's tiny print. But yeah, these are just why I'm asking the questions. You know, the cost benefit that the county invests, and then the cost benefit for what the Friends of the Zoo does. I would love to see a report of what educational programs, what the costs were, what monies you're bringing in, what staff is paid what, where all the monies that are being generated by the 501c3 are going. Because I think, I mean, what is your annual budget? I don't even know that. Do you guys know off the top of your head what your annual?
It's in the annual report right there.
No,
Yeah.
I can't read this.
Yeah, we'll pull
I'm
it
getting
up for you.
old.
It's okay.
Yeah, I can't read, I'm sorry.
All right.
Off my reader, son.
And while you're looking at that, Andrew, I just, I'm hearing this statement of, well, we just want to, make sure we're doing what's best for the county and the zoo. In short, there can be no better situation for them. Unless there's another, partnership with another nonprofit that's similarly situated to us, there's
So
not.
why reinvent the wheel?
Correct. And also there's not, right? It's just this, non-for-profit as opposed to a private entity. Okay, here you go. Here are the numbers.
Perfect, thank you, sir.
You're so welcome.
Oh, yeah, it's much easier.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I don't read in context.
At this time, Justin, if you could just.
Thank you, Chairman. Justin Sales. I just want to clarify a couple things. That's actually not true, where the idea of the aquarium came from. It was a direct conversation with the former board president, Janet Augustini, and the county executive. Public record on his calendar. I don't know why that is a source of debate, but that's just factually inaccurate. With respect to the MOU.
What thing is factually inaccurate specifically?
That the idea did not come from the Friends of the Zoo, the aquarium.
The idea of having the aquarium where, because I remember about 15 years ago, there was talking about having an aquarium next to or an extension of or expansion of the zoo. Are these the same idea?
This was a long-standing idea of the Friends of the Zoo. When Ryan McMahon took over as county executive, one of the first meetings he had was with then board president Janet Augustini and other representatives of the zoo coming to pitch the idea of an aquarium. Obviously, we was a
At the Inner
feasibility.
Harbor?
Well, that was determined after the feasibility study that was done. So the idea was an aquarium would be an asset to the community. Feasibility study was done that ultimately resulted in the Inner Harbor. I don't know why this is a source of debate, but the idea did come from the Friends. Secondly, with respect to partnership, couldn't agree more. As someone who was part of those conversations within our office, I would just push back on the assertion that there was hostility regarding some of the awards that the Friends got. It was in the interest of partnership. We just asked that when you happened to be successful with an award, you maybe shot us an email, just say, hey, FYI, great idea, we happened to win this. Reading about it in the newspaper, we just thought was maybe not the best way to pursue a partnership. That was the end of the conversation. I don't think that's a lot to ask. I think the legislature would like to know just as much as anybody else when friends groups win awards. I don't know how that gets interpreted as hostile, but so be it. The last thing, and I will submit for the record, and I owe you, Chairman, something else I did not bring with me. I have the previous MOU that was signed, and I also have the pending MOU, which I will submit for the record. Give me a second. Oh, no, it's right here. And with that, I also will submit communication that I provided, it was provided to me. I was also given, there's probably 15 copies here. Let me just keep one. That shows with current sitting board president, Terry Hopkins, an incredibly cordial, professional. We very much appreciated the conversation that went back and forth, where the board agreed on the MOU that you have before you. But you'll also see within that communication that the sitting board president specifically asked us to wait to sign that until the RFP was done with the gift shop. So while we appreciate the need and urgency to sign the MOU, this was done at the direction of the sitting board president. With respect to the changes, you have this one before you. I owe you, and we'll get to you before the end of today, the 2022 MOU for you folks to compare and contrast. I don't need to opine on that. Thanks.
Thank you, Justin.
Yes, we certainly have some rebuttal if there is opportunity.
Yes, Megan.
Okay, so first of all, with respect to this, historical issue of whose idea it was to first have as to the historical issue as to whose idea it first was to have an aquarium in the first place, I think we could probably debate this all day. Let's be clear about who went to the legislature and asked for the money. Let's be clear about who went to us and asked for money, and when we said no, who treated us with retaliation. Listen, we're here to be a partner, but the way that this is going on lacks integrity, period, and it's not acceptable. With respect to the MOU, yes, we are in an incredibly challenging situation right now, right? If the RFP doesn't go through, we simply cannot, we don't know how we can move forward, right? If the RFP is sent out to someone else, that's a problem. We do want to move forward with a final MOU version and to make sure that everyone is clear as to what those terms are, and we want the terms from the 2025 agreement. Do you want to add anything, Andrew?
Yeah, I just think to reiterate that point, we can't uphold the things that are in, there's been so many versions of this MOU, some of which include operation of the gift shop, some of which include operation of marketing services, which is directly funded by the profit that comes from the gift shop. So it's like a chicken and egg situation where if we don't know that we're going to be operating the gift shop, we can't commit to some of the things that are in previous versions of that MOU. So it makes it difficult to have a final agreement on that. But there was versions most recently that took, I think, gift shop operations and some of the marketing services out of there.
And those changes were, the positive changes for us that were made to the most recent MOU were made by our team.
Right.
So I saw in the Syracuse.com article, well, it's not 40% anymore. Well, yeah, that's because we pushed back, right? And we still don't have a signed agreement. And furthermore, we're not here today because the agreement's not signed. We're here because of the ask. We're here because of the fact that the MOU changed in an aggressive manner that departs from our historical nature of this agreement, as well as our historical operations. And as to the issue, sorry, this keeps going in and out. As to the issue of, whether or not this grant was hostile, let me be clear that there was a lot of hostility going on, and there was a marked difference from how the Friends were being treated before. And yes, the grant went out, and I don't think I don't think it needed to be that big of a deal, but apparently it was. We were told it was embarrassing, and we were, basically slapped on the wrist for this. That was just one of many examples. Unfortunately, I wasn't in all of those meetings to speak to each and every situation, but I was told that things are tense, things are toxic, things are hostile.
And we never want that. We don't want, we want a good working partner. And I know there's been a lot of change of leadership there. Were you guys, gender neutral, were you two the ones specifically negotiating the MOU for the Friends of the Zoo, you two?
So
or was it previous board members?
So which one? The most recent one?
Yeah, last year. I don't know when you guys.
I was very much involved in that, but kind of behind the scenes. So I would say it was more so Carrie who was probably negotiating that, and Terry.
Okay.
Here, do you want this one?
Need one? Can you go?
There, I just turned it on. I just would like to express a little disappointment. First off, the Friends are a very valuable contributing group in our community, as the zoo is. And I just would like to say words carry a lot of meaning. And I would hope that words could be spoken that will bring people together and not use hostile, aggressive, things of nature that won't help us solve the problem. And that's how it sounds like coming from the Friends group. And I'm sorry that you feel that way, but we need to move forward. We need to figure out how we can get this solved in the best fashion for everyone.
And if I could just add, I think other Friends group will renegotiate with, am I correct? Like Beaver, I know we talked about Brian May unfortunately had to go to the Friends of the Beaver Lake Nature Center. Wasn't that MOU recently redone?
Last year, well, that one over was done.
Okay, but it was being renegotiated. So it's not just this group that okay. So I don't, that makes me wonder, was it retaliatory? Is it coincidental? I hate to throw this out there. Is this bad blood being politicized? I hope not.
Certainly not on our end. And with respect to the words, I agree that words matter, and I think that's a really important point. What is happening right now is that the Friends are under economic threat. Our choice was to speak up or to go under, and here we are speaking up for ourselves, and we are doing so in a way that shows integrity, and we are doing so in a way that is supported by the documentation, and we want to make it clear on the record that we're not going to continue to be treated this way. This is not the way that an effective partnership runs. We are here to assert our boundaries and what we need to move forward.
Yeah, and I think it's important to note that this wasn't our first course of action. I do agree with you, words are important and choice in words is important. And there was a lot of debate at board meetings and executive sessions about, what is our next step? How do we want to proceed? Do we want to go to the legislator yet? It got kicked back a lot because we weren't sure that we had the points we wanted to make. But it got to the point between the relationship with the county, with the relationship at the zoo itself, that we felt it necessary. We felt it necessary to use the words we chose. We felt it necessary to engage the legislator. So I do appreciate your point, and I take it very much seriously because that's where we're at. We feel that it's required to use this language at this point.
When this came to be, did you guys reach out to the ledge, and who'd you reach out to, or did the ledge reach out to you?
We had Chad had joined the board at the Friends of the Rosamond Gifford Zoo, and as a part of his first meeting, we brought him up to speed on the current situation.
Okay.
And we did also offer to meet with whoever wanted to meet with us before this meeting, and no one took us up on that.
This is the first I'm hearing of it, so that opportunity never got passed along.
Yes.
So whoever it was sent to, it never made it to a lot of us.
Okay.
Let me, in the interest, Legislator Bush, I appreciate your comments. Let me reiterate something the county executive said, and maybe this will allow everybody to turn a page. This project has been fully funded for months. We've stopped pursuing or seeking a donation from the Friends for longer than that. That question asked, answered. We have certainly moved on months ago. I hope the Friends can do so too.
Does that mean that the MOU has been agreed upon and signed by the county's end?
Well, as you'll see for the record, the Friends are the ones who specifically asked to hold off on the signing of the MOU. I'm referring to this constant question about the $1 million that was asked, not refuting the ask. Right. I'm saying that because the project's now fully funded and for whatever reasons, which I would argue are irrelevant, we've moved on. We moved on months ago. We've no longer pursued any additional donation from them with respect to the aquarium.
So we're saying that there is no obstacle to both sides signing the 2025 MOU?
Only obstacle is that the current board president has asked us to wait until the RFP for the gift shop is done, as you will see in that communication I provided you.
And Justin, what about the RFP? Is that also going to be given to the, I guess you can't comment,
I'm not going to break
understood, understood. Thank you, thanks.
So just you said you offered to meet with the legislators. At what point in time?
The county.
Okay, at what point in time were the emails released to the media to leverage them before we even knew about this?
When the agenda was posted.
Okay, so it was originally the plan to leverage the media for this meeting.
I think the media asked for the agenda.
That's correct. And we even discussed
So
this.
it is being politicized. I mean, I think this is extremely inappropriate. I'm offended by how this went down.
I'm offended by what you just said because it's not being politicized. We literally don't have an executive director right now. We can't even fund an executive director. Our money is tied up. We don't have an office for her. What are we to do? Just sit back and watch this happen? Absolutely not. We are here to, like I said, excuse me, I'm not done. Excuse me, I'm not done.
You're at our committee.
Yeah, but don't interrupt me when I'm speaking. I'm telling you, we spoke to the county.
You're to come talk to the
No,
legislature.
I spoke to the
Are
county.
you, you're still speaking?
Yes, I am, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you for mentioning that. So we went to the county and they have not wanted to have a conversation with us. That's why we're here. We didn't reach out to the media reached out to us. So what do you think we should have done differently?
Are you done?
I am now. Thank you for
Okay,
asking.
I think that if you and Chairman Ryan, who I'm a little disappointed in, especially based on the comments earlier, wait till this afternoon, this was a planned ambush today. And I think, please, this is how I'm interpreting it, okay? That the emails were sent to the press at some point in time before any legislator on one side of the aisle knew any of this was an issue at all. And then the agenda was put out with the intention of coming in with this, knowing that the article was going to be written, still before a portion of the legislature knew anything about it.
Nothing was sent to the media. They requested the documents from the clerk's office after they were posted publicly.
Commissioner Johnson, do you still have something you would like to say?
Sydney Johnson, Deputy County Executive.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's a lot.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I
That's
gave
all
you
right.
the wrong
On a good day.
title.
I guess very disappointed. And I would say for the people that we've worked with, and I'm fairly new, are not the people sitting here. Terry Hopkins, I think, has been a very good and effective president of this board. She worked with Carrie Large. There is no doubt that there have been issues and conversation, but nothing that hasn't been what I consider good business practices between both groups. Active conversation is a part of a good relationship. There has been respect on both sides. I think you'll see that in the email. I don't think, and it disturbs me, that RFP is being spoken at this level. That is inappropriate to the process and not fair to the entire county process of RFPs. But I will tell you today, Terry Hopkins has been an effective president and has negotiated with us in good faith as we have negotiated with her. The other thing I'd like to mention is in the fall, Brian Kelly, our Commissioner of Parks, and I met with Terry Hopkins and with John Harris to discuss, was there an opportunity at the departure of Carrie Large to combine and share an executive director? And that was going to be discussed, reviewed. Regardless of what decision they came to, again, it was a cordial conversation. I don't think adversaries would have had that type of conversation. Thank you.
Sydney, I just would add that we actually are concerned about that and specifically about the idea of combining the executive directors because we do feel that the counties are trying to remove the gatekeepers to our endowment and to the funds for the Friends, again, to get to it from the aquarium. So that is a concern there.
I just want to say thank you to the Friends of the Zoo, right, for making sure you keep the sustainability of the zoo by giving back. I think we often speak a lot about privacy of donors, but I want to say thank you for speaking up for your donors too, because I think it's even more important when you give, right, to know where your money is going and where your money is being given. And I'm sure when your donors gave to the Friends of the Zoo, that's what they gave you that money for. Or they would donate to the Friends of the Aquarium.
Please state your full name.
Hello, I'm Kathy O'Connell. I'm a board member of the zoo, along with Terry Hopkins, and the longest board member. And a couple of things. I may not have fully heard Justin refer to a conversation between the county exec and our former director, Janet, but I don't believe that happened because I was on the board from May of 2019, Janet left the zoo on January 2020. I never heard anything about an aquarium in that time. Okay? My other point, and this is with all due respect, but I am concerned and very disheartened by the reaction of some people here, given what came out a couple weeks ago about what the county exec did with the money from the movie project. And I would hope you would see that that didn't show integrity. Thank you.
How much money does the endowment generate for you?
In investments?
Well, whatever you.
So the initial endowment was of $2 million given over a period of time, and I think the interest off of that has exceeded the initial endowment. Off the top of my head, I don't want to give a number of what exactly that's at now, but just based on that, it's over $4 million.
There's an annual distribution from that fund to the Friends Group or to the zoo. I don't know which.
Right, so that endowment agreement says that that money can only be used to fund educational services at the zoo.
Right. So it goes to the Friends Group?
Yes.
Which, let's be really clear, what happens when it goes to the Friends Group, that gets reinvested into the zoo. So it's, again, it's supposed to be a partnership, and we are consistently investing in the zoo.
But when that was made, that gift was made, it was given to the Friends Group?
Correct.
Okay.
Is there any way to see the operating budget for the last 5 years? Do we have that just to compare what we're taking in, where the monies are going, and how that reinvestment in the zoo is being utilized? Specifically, if we're gonna look at maybe, and I'm not talking about the RFP thing, just the process, that loss of money that you're worried about, you know, where is that money being reinvested into the zoo?
Yeah, we'll take that under consideration. We'll get right back to you about that.
I appreciate that. You could probably send it to the clerk who could distribute it to the committee.
Okay.
She's very good at that.
Just to be clear, we need to make sure, everything, that's okay, but I think it is. I don't see a
Yeah,
reason.
if you got it cleared by the board, I understand.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Sydney Johnson again. The question, Legislator Bush, about the $2 million endowment, it was done over 10 years. And in the resolution that this body passed to accept that and use it, it clearly states it has to be used, expended for programs and activities that have been approved by the director of the zoo under the supervision of the Commissioner of Parks and Recreation.
So where's the Friends Group come into that?
That's not here.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for coming.
Item 4, Chairwoman.
Hello, hello. Okay, for our final agenda item here, we have just one board that is being considered and kind of being reenacted. It has not been active for a little while under county facilities. That is the Vehicle Use Review Board. Its original initiating legislation had a combination of folks being put onto it between the county legislature and the county executive. And so we're just putting it out there on the table to see if we feel as though this is something that we should reinstate. The comptroller Comptroller recently did an audit related to county vehicles. I don't know if everyone has seen that. We do not need to make said determination today, but encourage you to check that out, and we will have future discussion about whether or not this board should be reenacted as part of the, just kind of oversight of such things throughout the county.
I encourage every member of this body to read the audit, and if you think it deemed necessary to form the board, please, or unnecessary, please let me know.
Thank you.
Need a motion to adjourn.
I so move.
Thompson, second. Hernandez.